Hello everyone and welcome to Overexposed, a BWRM podcast where we delve into the ins and outs of running a real estate photography and videography business. My name is Dave Temple.
And my name is Jackie Kirk. Guys, back today for episode 4 of our Pillars series. So just to refresh you, we've spoken about our products, the BWRM pathway, and our process. And today we're going to be talking about what I consider our most valuable pillar, which is our people. Welcome back, Guy.
Thanks for having me.
So, Guy, when we say people, who are we referring to?
We're referring to the members, so the people on the ground doing the shoots, the people that work for them, and the people who do our post-production.
So let's start with members. How many members do we currently have and where are they?
Our members are in Australia and New Zealand. We have to date 44 members. We're sort of expecting to crack the 45 number before Christmas 2023. And the vast majority are in Australia. We're relatively new in New Zealand, but I think we have 3 on the ground in New Zealand at the moment.
Okay. And then when you talk about, we've got members, they're all individual business owners. What about people that are actually out there shooting under the BWRM banner? How many people are we looking at there?
The number's more than 100. So I think it's around 110 creatives on the ground across Australia and New Zealand. The number is, not exactly concrete because each of our members have their own business and they'll have a pool of contractors and some people will come and go. So there's a bit of flux there. But yeah, 110 creatives on the ground is pretty close to accurate.
And then there are probably people that associate with those people, copywriters and other people as well, aren't there?
Yeah, for sure. And look, so there's 110 that we're sort of aware of, and then like you said, those businesses will have contractors that aren't even on our radar, and like you said, copywriters. Like in my team, there's three copywriters who don't register as creatives, but they do register as working with BWRM.
Okay. And where would all of these people have come from? What sort of backgrounds? Are they all people who've gone to uni or TAFE and done a photography course and that sort of thing, or have they come from somewhere else?
Look, they come from a variety of backgrounds. One of the things that we talk about is being for the creative first in our business, which I'm sure we'll come to as we move through this conversation. But it's really the foundation of what we built. It's about having creative people and really supporting them, wrapping them up with the tools that they need to do achieve what they want to achieve. And the same applies for the staff and the contractors. So our members will attract creatives from a variety of backgrounds. So they don't have to be formally trained. They just have to be really great people with really great attitudes.
And so we talk a lot. I think when Richard came on, he spoke a lot about the culture at BWRM and how it's a standout thing. Can you tell me a little bit about what makes that culture special amongst our members?
Yeah, look, that was one of the key things we set out to do, wasn't it? When we started, what we wanted to build was an organisation with an amazing culture, and to get an amazing culture, you need to have some pretty. You need to be really clear about what your values are as an organisation, and then you need to make sure that the people that come into the business share those values and then uphold them. Part of our process is to talk to every potential creative who wants to join. I'm pretty upfront that we have a no dickheads policy, really. And I know we all are, right? And that really helps us protect the culture that we've built. And then we move into our induction, where we talk about our values and our core value being respect. That's the very first part of what is a long journey with these business owners to get them to where they want to go. The very first conversation we have is about respect from BWRM to the individual, to the creative, about what they want, respect from them to us, from them to their clients to them to their staff to them, and also through to the supply chain. And with that culture of respect being upheld across the board, and with the great, with that as a cornerstone of, I suppose, how people operate, we're able to have this really great culture where, we each take responsibility for our actions. Where problems do happen, we come and we aim to solve them constructively. We ultimately respect what everybody wants to get out of the relationship that we all had with each other.
So we spoke about the values there. So when you're talking to people, what are the sort of things you're looking out for that you say that sounds like a good person?
I think the reality is that we're in a people business, right? We're in a relationships business. So ultimately, there's a few things that we're looking out for, but the people need to want what BWRM is offering, and not everyone does. So that's okay, right? So if you come across us and the tools, the pillars that we're talking about now, are what you're looking for, big tick, right? Then you have to be personable. You have to be insightful. You have to ask good questions. And you have to come across as somebody who would be great to work with, because the first impression that we get speaking with that member is going to be very similar to the first impression that a client or potential client's going to get. And if that person can't really put across really clearly who they are in that conversation, then there's a good chance that they're not going to be able to do that when they build the business, and which is actually going to inhibit the business. So realistically, I'm looking for creatives with a great attitude who I would want to work with. You tick those boxes. A lot of the stuff that we have is trainable. We have documentation, we have how-to videos, we have our conferences. We can pair people up with other creatives in the business to help them, but they have to be somebody that people want to work with.
Mm.
It's definitely the slower way of building a business. I mean, I think it's really definitely we've seen businesses come and go that have been really big flashes in the pan and really expanded rapidly, but they've also collapsed just as rapidly. But by putting really great people at the cornerstone or the foundation of your business, in my view or in our view, that really leads into that long-term sustainability piece.
Mm. So let's put ourselves in the mind of a new member joining, and we're looking at the pillars and we say people. What value, we're saying everybody's an independent business owner, you're all doing your own thing. So what value are you getting out of the people pillar as a new member?
Look, you've really got the ability to tap into experience, right? So I was talking to Dave about this the other day, unfortunately not on your marvellous podcast, about the collective experience about just the four directors. We estimated roughly 100,000 properties shot by the four directors. Now, that's just our experience. Expand that out across 44 business owners. If you come along and you're the 45th, right, you might have, I don't know, you could have 1 million, you could have 500,000, I don't know, properties visited collectively by the group, which each one of those has helped shape the experience. And almost every potential scenario that you might face as a new creative coming into the business has actually already been encountered. And all you need to do is ask one of the great people how they've overcome a challenge, and you'll probably get 3 or 4 different great answers. So what it really gives you as a creative coming on is collective knowledge from people, and a series of solutions or sounding boards or whatever, however you want to put it, to help you overcome challenges in an effective way, much, much faster than having to sort of cut your own path all the time.
It's actually more than that, though, because although that is obviously a great thing, it's people's extra experience that also helps. We have people who were wedding photographers who bring experiences that they've gone through doing that kind of business. People who've run as independents and decided to join BWRM who bring their knowledge. People who've run businesses that are completely unrelated to photography. There's so much of a wealth of experience, and because we're all communicating with each other all the time, we all learn those things. So there's a lot of value there.
And I think it's also about the quality. And this goes back again to choosing good people to begin with. But, I'm in a number of global Facebook photographer groups, and you can ask a question on there and you'll get 10,000 responses, and some will be good and some will be terrible advice, but you just don't know if you don't know. Whereas the answers and the quality of advice that we get on our Discord, on our forums and our conferences, it's really good advice. It's realistic. It's local. It suits people.
And I think that's specifically really good because we're all locked in to the same concepts, right? So we all are using the same portal. We are all shooting the same process. We're all on the same pathway, albeit to whatever point we want to get to. We're following the same processes. We're selling the same products. So it makes it really consistent, So what you're delivering to your clients, Jackie, is what I'm delivering to mine. So if I need to overcome a solution, your response is within exactly the same business framework as my own. And that's going to be the difference between those global forums where somebody might just, God knows what they're doing. I mean, you just don't know. Whereas you do know when you join us that everybody's pulling in the same direction.
Yeah, the core principles are the same. So, for example, the shooting process is the same, which means you don't have those endless arguments about the best way to shoot because it's done. So then you can move on to the actual important stuff, which is how do you run a business more efficiently?
Yeah, and even just like looking on our, we use Discord to chat. It's a really engaged community on there with every member's on there. I'm always at pains to tell people when they join because they really, everybody hears me talk about the culture, but I don't think anyone really believes me until they experience it. But you get on there and you ask questions, you engage, you seek feedback from members, and you get you just get a whole lot of help and support.
Well, it goes back to the fact that everybody's been where someone starting out is. Everyone's been there. They've gone through it. We've got people who are on day one of the process who's maybe never shot a photo. And then we've got people who've been doing it for over a decade, running teams, turning over huge amounts of money, running very successful businesses. So we've got people who can relate and get support from everyone. If you're a new member and you just want to chat to other new members, you can do that, or you can get advice from people who've done all of that. But then also you've got now a number of really advanced businesses, and then they've got each other to support each other on the challenges that they're facing. That'll be sometimes very different to what someone starting out is facing. One of the things I love the most is the attitude of pay it forward. And because everyone's started somewhere, everyone's gone through those difficult first years, we've got people who are just so open to helping people like Neil, for example, who you guys, our loyal listeners will know from the It's All About the Cash podcast. But Neil, he's a busy guy and he always has time to talk to new people and help them and give them advice. And he says it's because that's what he received when he joins, and he feels good passing it forward.
And I hope he won't mind me saying this, and it's also because he's not a dickhead.
Yes, he definitely is not. So I think we've obviously got that collective experience. I think some of the other value adds that you get from the people pillar is just that support. I know for me personally, I talk about this all the time. Everyone's probably really bored of it. But when I had my daughter, I took something like 7 months off, and I had Jason and Liam, who were my neighbouring photographers, and they helped me. They helped me look after my business. I had contractors, but they also helped to oversee things. And if there was any complicated issue, it went to them, and I knew that I could trust them. I knew they were good people. I knew they would handle things the way I would handle them because of our shared values. And it allowed me, as a small business owner, something that a lot of small business owners don't have the luxury of doing, which was to have really quality maternity leave, which, I'll never forget that. It was invaluable, and I owe a lot to those two for helping me.
Yeah, and look, I mean, the same thing happened to me when I went to Mauritius to set up what is now BWRM production. That 3 months off, and I had Lucas and Nick as adjoining territories. My neighbours, other members, come and effectively take over not the day-to-day operation, but where challenges would come up, the buck was able to stop with them. They were able and empowered by me to make decisions on the ground, which made my clients happy. And ultimately, I came back to the same business I left 3 months later. And I was paid all the way along the way. I mean, you can't do that as an independent. You might be able to do that under some other models you might. But I can assure you there's no business like ours in our industry that I'm aware of that has the culture and the quality of people that we have. It's one of the most one of my proudest achievements, I think, and should be probably the proudest achievements of all the directors in BWRM is that when you go to a conference, you look around the room, you see the quality, you experience the quality of people. It's extremely gratifying.
And not just that, but everyone's happy to be there. Every single person at that conference is someone that I would happily sit down and have a beer with anyways. People that are interesting, engaging, smart, good at what they do, they care about what they do. So it's that shared experience is really, I don't know, it's quite heartwarming. It sounds cheesy, but it really does make me quite emotional. We know it makes you emotional, Guy, because you tend to cry. But
well, I mean, back to that conversation, that's exactly why I did, I mean, looking around the room at the faces was, the difference from where we came from to where we were, and then the difference again to where we are today. I mean, it's quite profound, and realistically, we couldn't be there without the people. And we've applied that concept, that creative first concept. We used to call it photographer first, and we realised that not everyone's a photographer. You just do need to be a creative. But applying that creative first approach all the way through our production house in Mauritius, the same induction happens there. The same values are shared there. I mean, these are people we rely on as they're part of our team. They turn up to work every day and they do an amazing job. And they do that because they're great people who we value, who we respect. And as members of BWRM, we communicate with on a daily basis in a respectful way. And we all have this shared success. So the people thing's not only on the ground, it's global, really.
Well, you just look at some of the things that have come up. I could say in Discord, just in the last day or two, we had Laura in Queenstown who is doing, she's got some videos booked in on, it's a development video, a building that hasn't been built yet. And she was just saying there are a number of videos to do on this. What are some ideas? And all of a sudden you just have so many people jumping in with really cool ideas, people who've done videos like that, examples. And it's just, you could sit at home and think of those things yourself. But yeah, what a resource to have people who've been there, done that and done it well, to just be able to ask, and people that are most importantly happy to help and happy to tell you. It's not a chore. They want to help, which is really wonderful.
That's right. And there's even a lot of practical discussions. We talk about the pathway really helping you know where you are in space and time, but even just setting your pricing. How do you know what to charge when you start? Do you just charge what everyone else charges? Well, why do they charge that? I don't know. Like, I've seen some pricing that I would consider just completely random out there in the marketplace with no basis on logic or anything, so we can advise, and we do advise each other on specific things. I know today there was a chat, how much do people charge for travel? Do people charge for travel? Just little simple things like that all the way along, and this was an established member actually asking, she's been around like 12 years in the industry and has never charged travel, and has decided that finally it's time. And she was given literal hourly rate by people who've been doing it for some time. So, there's no end to that support from great people and what you can gain from that.
And it's help you can trust, because you're not competing with each other, you're supporting each other, and there's the strength in your numbers. The other thing is also the professional loneliness. It's something that people speak about a lot who've been trying to do it on their own. And I know that actually when I get all my contractors together, we just had our Christmas lunch for our business, and they were so pumped to be talking to other photographers and videographers. Two of the videographers sat and literally spoke about gear for 2 hours. which is not what I would do, but it was what they wanted to do. But it was really cool. But it was, I don't know. I know that if I've got a long drive ahead of me, I'll ring Dave or I'll ring you or Nick or Liam or whoever, Mel, have a chat because it's just nice. And it's not even for any specific reason. It's just, how's your day going? How are your numbers? Anything weird happened today? And it's really cool. You could share it in successes.
Exactly. Well, Stefan and Dave, for example, like cats. I don't. But, there's always photos of them with cats getting shared around or different, animals at sites. But, I mean, we call ourselves a community, don't we? Sorry, Dave, I just like having digs at you and cats. But we call ourselves a community, and that's what we are, right? We, community. We're not just sharing, professional tips. We are just supporting each other through whatever it needs to be. And sometimes it is. It's just up for a chat, and that's just as important as any of the other things that you gain.
If you're independent, it's such a niche business to be in. Most people don't even know about the job, that the job exists until they sell their house. They wouldn't have come across a real estate photographer at all. So it must be very easy to get locked into bad habits or, bad ways of working or those kind of things. If you're independent, you don't have anybody else that you can trust. And like you said, Jackie, if you ask online in these huge groups, you get so many different answers. You've no idea which ones are the right ones. So it's good to be able to phone up somebody who's in the same situation as you and just have a chat.
If you're in an office and, you usually, like I've worked in an office and that's really cool. You've got your colleagues sitting next to you, you have a chat. But if you're doing this, you're pretty much on the road all day on your own. You're seeing your clients, but they're not your mates. You may like them and get on with them, but you're not going to kind of, chat to them about all your other clients, are you? So to have that network and community that understands what it's like for you, where even sometimes like your partner won't really get it, it's quite nice.
Yeah, even to just say, hey, neighbour, what sort of profit margin are you getting here at a net level? What's your average invoice? How are you doing that? What's those little conversations, you can't get that elsewhere.
I sat down with Liam the other day. We booked in a coffee. We sat down. We opened up our zeros. We're very open with each other about that stuff. And we just had a look. We looked at kind of what our average invoice was, our numbers, and we're able to both analyze each other's numbers and help each other. It was amazing. There's nowhere else I can think of where you could do that because the person would be your competitor. You're not going to be showing them your books. But in this case, it was, a team member sort of.
And that's probably another part that we haven't probably spoken about, which has been a concerted effort, I think, from the net effect of adding a business next door to an existing business and how that improves the development of that neighbouring business, how they can leverage, because we have great people, how they can leverage the reputation of the person next door, how they can leverage the quality of the product being produced by the person next door to help grow their business. And at the same time, they can support the existing business by, being able to contract to them to help them out or just give them a little bit of a hand or just be able to be that shoulder to lean on when they need. And if you look at, say, Canberra as an example, Mel's there. She's doing incredible work. Aaron has come along and he's an amazing person, great operator as well. He's building business in his own right. And he's also leveraging the work that Mel's done. And he also spent October supporting Mel in one of her busiest months she's ever had. So it's incredibly powerful to have. I do feel sorry for Catherine Coombs all the way up in Cairns, way out on her own.
If we've got anyone in Far North Queensland listening, we could use some people. Catherine could use a hand, and we'd love some people in Far North Queensland. Get in touch.
Yeah. Catherine's as close to our photographers in Auckland as she is to the photographers in Brisbane, I'm pretty sure. Something like that. So it's, but we are actively looking for people up there because, we know that that's important and that level of support, is a valuable part of the business. And she's getting as much remote support as we can give, but to have somebody nearby will just be that next level that would really, really give her, give her a whole lot more support, I suppose.
So let's talk a little bit about how our people are able to engage with each other, the things that we do, because we see the value in this community. What are some of the things we do? We've obviously got our Discord forum, and for the non-gamers out there who might not know about Discord, it was originally a gaming platform, I think, messaging platform. We used to use WhatsApp, but what's wonderful about Discord is you can have forums, you can have things get saved. It's a lot more organized, and there's so much information that goes into there on a daily business and so much activity. To be able to categorize it makes it much easier for someone who just joins to go and find answers that they're looking for. So Discord's been awesome. I want to thank my husband, Andrew, for suggesting that, because it was his idea. So we've got Discord. We've got our workshops, Dave, which you and I are running. We've covered those a little bit in our past podcasts, but we basically have our new members workshop and our established members workshop. And that, again, is just places where we can have a bit more structure to really check in on how people's businesses are going and how they are going towards achieving their goals and where they are on the pathway.
So in terms of the people element of the workshops, especially the new member one, what I really like is that, obviously we've got the process of getting people through them and establishing a business, but also what you find is that people engage with each other. They find someone who's a fellow traveller. It creates its own little networks in there where people start at the same time. They start talking to each other because they're still in the same phase of their business. And you find that when those people become established members, they're talking to each other, and, you create little groups of smaller networks around the country as well, which is really good. And of course, from my point of view, it's gratifying when people come in brand new without any business and not really knowing. And by the time they get out of the new member workshop, they're the ones that new people are looking at and thinking, well, they made it, so I can. So, it creates tutors and people to refer to later on. It's great.
It does. And friends, Mel and Neil would not know each other, if it wasn't for their collective experience. They went through the new member workshop together. They're often sitting side by side at the conference, and I'm sure they chat, probably, if not weekly, every couple of days, and support each other, and they're doing that from different states or territories.
Yeah, it makes it a lot more fun. And I think the established members workshop, what I've seen, and we've been going much towards a more workshop format when we don't have guest speakers, is again just capitalizing on that collective wisdom. That's how, if you've listened to the Tips and Tricks podcast, that came out of the established members workshop. We sat down and we said, guys, what are some of the things that have made your life easier in doing this? And there were all sorts of wonderful ideas that came out of that. So, the workshops are amazing. And then we've got our conferences, which I really enjoy these. So, Guy, if what would someone expect from one of our BWRM conferences?
Well, I think really tailored content. We all operate in this business, right? We all know what has to be done on the ground because we do it, right? And so we provide, and we also see the overall data. So we see how businesses are going, where their struggling points might be. We've got an eye on trends. We're looking at all sorts of things. And then we're trying to bring that together in a really star-focused conference. We've been through understanding your personality type, changing or understanding your communication style, and then the communication style and personality type of the person you're talking with, so you can adjust the way you communicate to better influence them in sales, for example. Or there's how to shoot, basics of video, advanced video, just setting your pricing for profitability, even just talking about marketing challenges that real estate photographers in Australia have because of our sizing compared to the US market. But it's specific high quality stuff. And we're delivering that with a range of professionals and people from within our community as well who are exceptional at what they do, which is probably a really good point because, Lucas, for example, has spent a lot of time really lifting the game on video. And he's done that at his end. And then he's worked really hard with the editing team to get the result that he's looking for, which he was then able to take to the conference and train people. And then our video product just lifted, it just jumped to a new level. And as talking to Stefan yesterday, he said he thinks Lucas has done it again. He's lifted again, pushed it to another level that I didn't even know was possible, right? So, we had him delivering video training. I mean, you want to know exactly what he's doing. You want to break down step by step of some of the most beautiful real estate videos you will see. Well, you'll get that sort of thing at the conference.
And so the conference is usually held over 2 days in Australia, but I think we're not close to the idea of having them in New Zealand if we had enough members on. I'd certainly like to go to New Zealand. So just for our listeners, our last conference we had in Mooloolaba, which was wonderful because it was in winter, but it was lovely and warm. Over 2 days, we always have a nice big dinner for everyone, and it's, a lot of fun.
One of the things, Guy, that we specifically chose to do at the conferences, the last couple, was to leave breathing room between workshops. Can you just explain why that was done?
Yeah, well, again, it's about the community, being able to connect. It's about putting faces to names that you've seen throughout the year. It's about thanking people for the help that they've given you. It's about just having a conversation about the football. Not that I would do that because who cares, but having a conversation about something other than real estate, right? It's just connecting on a human level. Just those little breaks are really important. I know people going out on walks in the morning, and some were going for runs. There was couple of people went whale watching the other year. So it's just as important to have those downtimes and those social times, just to strengthen those relationships.
Definitely. So just moving on, I think that we've pretty much covered the huge value that we get from our creatives on the ground. Can you tell me a little bit about our people behind the scenes? We've obviously got the management team, and then we've got all of the retouchers and editors. Do you go through a similar sort of selection process, Guy, as when it comes to values and the no dickheads policy?
Totally. And I think that's been a really important thing to have done, particularly in Mauritius, where we've built relationships with a university that has young creatives looking for work, which is hard to find in Mauritius, where we go and sit and we visit the university, we bring in interns, we see how they fit in our culture. They're just like our creatives on the ground in Australia and New Zealand. They fit the same thing. They want the same things. They are looking for a creative career. They're looking for the same, the same reward or the same sense of satisfaction working in a creative industry. So we apply the same no dickheads policy everywhere we go. And honestly, it works. I go bowling with the guys. They're great. I even convinced them I was 30, which was my favourite part.
They were being nice. You employ them.
Yeah.
Did you actually convince them that raises some questions? I don't know about that. I think we had a really lovely experience that is a good example of that recently when we hired our new in-house social media manager. We had a range of applications. Some were very, very experienced, but this one person, she's young, but her attitude just shone out above everybody. She is so enthusiastic. She's taken the initiative, and she's been an absolute pleasure to work with. And I've got no doubt that she's going to just take the social stuff that we're doing within production to whole new levels. And I think seeing that value in attitude has made such a huge difference.
Yeah. And it's everything, right? People are everything in every organisation. And frankly, I think it's an old-fashioned worldview where people are a commodity. I don't treat people like that. I don't think, none of us do. I think we've been in poor business models where it hasn't factored in people, and ultimately has led to, and I know we've talked about before, an unsustainable environment that doesn't work in the long term. And so not only by putting people first, by getting the business model right, by ensuring you get great people, not only do you build a great business, you build a sustainable business long term that's a pleasure to be involved in.
Yeah.
And that's what we wanted to do. And again, I feel really proud that we've achieved that, or we're certainly on the road to continuing to achieve that. I know we've got big goals and big dreams for what we think this business can be, and realistically, we've only just started.
I recently had dinner with a friend of mine who works for a very large real estate website, and he was just talking about how they know, even though so much is automated and there's so much tech out there, that the one thing that you just can't replace is that soft touch on the ground. And how when you're selling a house, when you take it back to what we're actually doing, when you're selling a house, how stressful that process can be and how many moving parts there are and how emotional it often is. There's just no replacement for that person on the ground that cares and makes that experience just a little bit better. You can automate so many things. You can have online auctions, whatever. But when it comes to just making people feel a bit more comfortable and a bit more at ease in possibly some of the most stressful moments of their life, there's no replacement.
No, that's exactly right, Joe. I mean, and that's, not only are we looking for, when we have those initial conversations, people that we want to work with, we're looking for people that other people will want to work with, and people that have that degree of emotional intelligence, people who can assess a situation and not put their foot in their mouth, that know when to ask questions and know when to shut up. All these things are really important for the creatives on the ground building a business. And you're exactly right. I can't actually remember what you said, but you're exactly right.
It's the care factor above all.
That's the one.
And I think we look for people with the care factor. We look for people with the care factor because they're the most likely to succeed, and we don't succeed if our members don't succeed. But that care factor also then translates into everything else within our community. I genuinely care that Dave's had his best month ever. Like I'm interested in how he's doing, not just how I'm doing. And same as like when I see how well Mel's done, like it brings a tear to my eye. Like I'm just so proud of our people and how good they are and how well they've done. And we've been with them every step of the way, watching them overcome all these challenges, and to just watch them succeed. It's the most fulfilling part of my job. Like, yes, we take nice pictures of houses and we help our clients, but hands down, watching our people succeed is what gets me up in the morning.
Yeah, and look, I'm going to do a straight up pitch. If you're listening now and you're working for a big company and you're just being treated as a commodity, imagine the difference if all that effort and all that care and all of that stuff that you give to that company actually came back as a reward to you. Imagine the difference in your life. Imagine what that would feel like, that care that's taken for granted by potentially taken for granted where you work now. Imagine if that translated directly to benefit to you. I mean, that's the environment that we've created. And we're seeing people who've done that, who've left some big organisations in our industry and have come, they know what to do. They've come here and they're building their own, they're building their own thing. They're building value for themselves and their families, and they're really getting themselves to a place that they never could have got to in the organisation that they've left. So, I'd say if you've made it this far in the podcast, hit the book a call button on the website and let's have a chat.
Guy, thank you so much for coming on to talk to us about our fourth pillar, people. We've only got one pillar to go, everybody, so tune in for the next one, which will be portal. If you've been enjoying the podcast, please show us some support by liking or subscribing. Otherwise, we'll catch you next time. Bye.
Thanks for having me.
See you, Guy.